Also known as Illustrated Guide to Scum Men in the Imperial Capital, Handbook of Brave Women in Anlan Academy, I Dismantle CP in Ancient Times. Lan Meng traveled through time to become Luo Junyao, the daughter of the Grand General of the Dingguo Kingdom in the Dasheng Dynasty. In her past life, she devoted herself wholeheartedly to her country, but in this life, she has decided to become a happy salted fish. Although her original gaze was unattractive and she fell for a scumbag, as long as you set aside the scumbag, the second girl from the Luo family is still the toughest and coolest child who supports the Shangyong Imperial City. However, the Lu Shan calligrapher has returned with the wrong true daughter, and a battle between the true and false daughters is imminent. Luo Junyao was shocked. So this is a genuine or fake 1,000 gold inscriptions. Marquis Yang brought back a small white flower and a pair of children from the border, and his wife suffered a tragic divorce. Luo Junyao. Is this an upgraded version of a certain month's grid? Miss Su, the fiancée of the Grand Tutor's family who escaped marriage, returned to beg for forgiveness. Luo Junyao. Is this a crematorium for pursuing wives? Princess Chang's son-in-law had an affair during her marriage, and her partner turned out to be a scumbag wife. Luo Junyao. This is picking up Shangyong from the garbage dump. The married older sister's pregnant husband secretly hid in the outer room and looked like the older sister. Luo Junyao was furious. The stunt is the most disgusting. Shit, a plant, sisters, follow me. Luo Junyao. Our goal is. Scumbags will die. The Empress Dowager has an edict. Women should follow the 3 rules and 4 virtues, and abide by rules and regulations. Luo Junyao. What? Regent. It's simple. The Empress Dowager should have passed away. Luo Junyao. Big shot. Please hold on to your thighs. Regent. Hold on, by the way. What do you think is the story between us? Luo Junyao. Probably. I'll be the mother consort of my ex-watching guide. 1. The age difference between male and female leads is 14 years, please do not read if you mind. 2. The male lead and the scumbag are not biological father and son. Keywords of the novel. The First Lady of the Imperial City with no pop-ups. Download the complete TXT collection of the First Lady of the Imperial City, and read the latest chapters of the First Lady of the Imperial City. Chapter 1. Cataclysm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Cataclysm. Cute, let's go. Above the huge and empty warehouse building, Lan Meng gritted her teeth and glanced at the silver fox with a cold expression leaning behind the cover not far away. You go first. As he spoke, he kept operating the keyboard in front of him. On the computer screen in front of her, 2 slender figures were rushing forward rapidly. Behind them, there was a group of people in black who were relentlessly chasing after them. On the huge projection screen on the wall ahead, there are many red dots moving rapidly in the direction of 2 green dots. Lan Meng was operating the computer while saying, they are surrounded, and the road ahead is artificially blocked. I'll help them open the passage. You go first. Silver Fox glanced at the girl sitting in front of the computer with 10 fingers flying and a delicate and lovely face. He didn't speak anymore, but raised his gun again and knocked down the person below who wanted to attack again. How long will it take? 2 minutes. Wait. Silver Fox, be careful. A black shadow suddenly appeared and pounced on the Silver Fox, who was completely focused on staring downstairs. Without hesitation, Lan Meng grabbed the dagger placed by the table and threw it towards the black figure. Silver Fox also reacted and turned around without hesitation, taking a few shots. The black shadow seemed to be blocked for a moment, but soon pounced again, clearly not causing any substantial damage to it with the knife and a few shots just now. Lan Meng glanced at the 2 people still rushing forward on the screen, gritted her teeth, and quickly typed a few lines of information to send out. Then he forcefully smashed the computer and display screen in front of him before grabbing the gun and running towards Silver Fox. "Sasa, how are you?" In the somewhat dark warehouse, Lan Meng looked worried at the Silver Fox sitting on the ground bandaged with wounds, her eyes turning slightly red. Silver Fox looked down and said, "It's okay, what's that outside?" They were surrounded, but it was not people who surrounded them, but a group of strange creatures they had never seen before. "I haven't seen it before, the white fox may know." The Silver Fox looked at the blue fox with red eyes in front of him and reached out to pinch her face. "I'm sorry, I hurt you this time," he said. If she hadn't found out that the white fox and the blood fox might have fallen into someone else's trap and asked the blue fox to come and help, the blue fox, who had already left the fox's nest, wouldn't have fallen into the current desperate situation. "Don't be afraid," she said. Blue Fox sniffed and said, "I'm not afraid, Sasa. Can't we get out now? What do you think?" The topographic map of this place flashed quickly through Blue Fox's mind, and in the end, she shook her head somewhat dejectedly. "There are too many monsters outside that they have never seen before, and they have no idea what they are. And the black shadow just now. If it weren't for the jade pendant given to them by the white fox, maybe the two of them would have died in the hands of that black shadow." After a while, Blue Fox lifted his head and said, "At least, Blood Fox and the two of them can go out, right? I helped them lock all the channels behind them, leaving only their escape routes." "Well done," Silver Fox patted her head and said. Outside came the sound of bumping and crashing, as well as the clicking sound as if it were the sound of some animal chewing something. The door, which was originally impossible to shake with the power of ordinary people, now appears as if it were a shoddy product with shoddy workmanship, and even begins to deform. With a piercing sound, a crack appeared on the door. The blue fox bit her lip and didn't want to be torn apart by those monsters. Raising my hand and flipping open the handheld computer on my wrist, I said, "This is a military arsenal, and there are 3 warehouses next to it that store a lot of ammunition. Before I just entered, I placed 3 time bombs in the warehouse. Additionally, I can remotely control short-range ground missiles nearby. If nothing unexpected happens, I can bombard every 2 kilometers around this warehouse to the point where nothing grows." The Silver Fox glanced at the already shaky door and said, "The white fox and the others. The white foxes are at least 10 kilometers away from here, but we can't run out." A cold and bright smile curved over Silver Fox's lips. "We couldn't run out in the first place. So let's blow it up." Lan Meng looked at Silver Fox with bright eyes. "I haven't played with a real missile yet." Touch. The gate collapsed with a loud bang, and Silver Fox stood up to greet him. "Bomb! Hurry up!" Countless strange creatures surged in from outside. It seems like more than a decade of biological knowledge has been learned in vain overnight, and even Lan Meng, who has seen a lot on the internet, cannot distinguish what these things are. Did prehistoric creatures suddenly come back to life? Or have all the monsters in the classic of mountains and seas crawled out of the book? While tapping on the handheld computer, Blue Fox thought. Glancing at a black python with 2 long heads rushing towards the Silver Fox, "Cute, hurry." A cold light flashed in the Blue Fox's eyes. "You look so ugly, why do you also want to eat Sasa? Go to hell." The slender fingers struck hard on the keyboard, and a few loud bangs suddenly rang out, causing the entire earth to tremble. The python rushing towards the Silver Fox seemed to be stunned by the huge vibration for a moment, followed by even more intense explosions and whistling sounds from the sky that echoed through its mind from somewhere unknown. Lala, let's start a new article. Darling, are you still there? In the blink of an eye, the Fox's Nest series has reached its 4th and most likely the last installment. Thank you for accompanying us all the way. I hope you can also enjoy the story of Lan Meng. Love you. 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Is so annoying. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 is so annoying. Luo Junyao, Are you crazy? Isn't this what you want yourself? What are you pretending to be? The man's angry voice reached Lan Meng's ears, strangely making her previously chaotic and blurry hearing gradually clear in the explosion. As Lan Meng opened her eyes, she saw a face full of anger and disgust staring at her. Where is this? What am I doing? Shouldn't she be at the center of the explosion? Did the white fox suddenly invent the teleportation array? Lan Meng blinked her eyes, and just as she was about to speak, a woman's frightened voice came from the door. Ah! What's going on here? What are you doing? Lan Meng shook her still slightly drowsy head, and for some reason, there was an indescribable heat all over her body. She turned her head to look at the door with some discomfort, and there stood a beautiful and delicate-looking girl standing at the door. But what really caught Lan Meng's attention was not her beauty, but her wearing a blue shirt with delicate and elegant orchid patterns embroidered on it. Her hair is tied in a bun, adorned with a few simple and elegant pearl flowers between her hair. This is clearly a graceful and elegant ancient beauty. Lan Meng suddenly remembered. By the way, she and Sasa seem to have both died. It really hurts to be blown up by the bomb I buried myself. So now she is looking at the young man standing in front of her and herself. They were all dressed in ancient costumes with wide sleeves and long shirts. Looking at those slender and fair hands like jade again, they were really not her original hands. The legendary white fox never said that after a person dies, they will really travel through time. Shake, what are you doing? The woman standing at the door was obviously frightened by this scene and couldn't help but raise her voice, shouting, "How could you do such a thing? What did I do?" Lan Meng thought with some displeasure. I couldn't help but raise my hand and touch my face, it was scorching hot. Damn it! What's going on? It's like being drugged with something indescribable. The young man standing beside snorted coldly and said, "Luo Junyao, it was you who shamelessly did such a thing yourself. No wonder this young master." Lan Meng had no idea about the situation in front of her, but just looking at this scene, based on her countless experiences reading books, it was probably a rendezvous between a man and a woman, or someone throwing themselves in arms and being caught, right? Looking at the expression on the man in front of me, it seems like the latter. However, her current situation. Lan Meng quietly pinched herself and turned around to walk outside. Where are you going? The young man in the room and the woman at the door were both stunned as she turned around to leave. Lan Meng didn't want to answer, and the young man's face became even more ugly as he ignored her. He grabbed her arm. "Let go," said Lan Meng. The young man sneered and said, "Aren't you trying to seduce me? I will help you. Luo Junyao, remember, this is your own despicability." After speaking, he pulled the person into his arms, ignoring that there was still someone standing at the door. He lowered his head and wanted to kiss Lan Meng. What's going on? What's going on? A hurried and chaotic sound of footsteps and voices came from outside the door. Lan Meng has been likable since she was young, and as she grew up, she became a group pet of the fox's nest. How could anyone offend her like this? Before the person's mouth could reach her, she had already grabbed the young man's collar and lifted his left knee up with force. The young man groaned in pain and bent down. What was that sound just now? Did something happen? Lan Meng's eyes rolled and without hesitation, she grabbed the young man in front of her, punching and kicking. The young man had just been attacked and was holding his stomach and unable to straighten his waist. At this moment, he was suddenly hit by a shower of fists, unable to resist and could only dodge while holding his head. What's going on here? What's going on? The people who rushed over at the sound arrived at the door, staring blankly at the situation in the room. A pair of disheveled men and women are naturally very intriguing. But what if the girl is beating the man and the man is hiding with his head in his arms? Is it difficult? Is this man attempting to belittle the girl? But soon people gave up on this idea. Wait. Is this Master Xuanyu? The story of the second girl from the Luo family crazily pursuing the son of Xuanyu in the past 2 or 3 years is unknown to everyone in the entire Shangyong Imperial City. Miss Luo Air has an arrogant and domineering personality. She doesn't understand poetry and books, and doesn't know how to play qin and chess. She spends her days trying every way to chase after Master Xuanyu. If any lady in the entire Imperial City gets closer to Prince Xuanyu, even if it's just a casual conversation at a banquet, she can treat her as a rival in love. It is truly regrettable that the head of the 7 beauties in the Imperial City, who is already 20 years old, has no girl dared to approach. This kind of Luo Junyao is more likely to be angered by Xuanyu Gongzi's attempt to belittle him than to be belittled by him. Miss Shen, what's going on here? The girl in green didn't expect Luo Junyao to react like this, so she quickly came back to her senses and went in to pull Lan Meng. I don't know either. When I heard the sound coming over, I saw. Shake. Shake, stop it. Don't hit me. Are you really the son of Xuanyu? Someone was shocked. How could Luo Junyao hit Master Xuanyu? Are you still fighting so hard? Xie Qingyu forced himself to straighten up and said with an unpleasant expression, the girl from the Luo family said that Prince Luo invited me here to talk. Everyone suddenly realized. The inviter is young Master Luo Air, but the one who appears here is Miss Luo Air. Is it difficult? Miss Luo Air wants to bow hard at the domineering Prince Xuanyu. Could it be that Miss Luo Air wanted to throw herself in arms, but Prince Xuanyu refused, so Miss Luo Air angrily attacked someone? Lan Meng naturally felt the change in the gaze of everyone looking at her, but her mind was blank without any memory of the original owner, and she had no idea what had happened. Moreover, the scorching heat all over her body made it impossible for her to think too much. The woman in green looked at Lan Meng with concern and said, "Sheikh, how can you do such a thing? Even if you like Prince Xuanyu. You can't. Lan Meng said angrily, "Who likes him?" She looked at the little white face in front of her with some disdain. It had some color, but as soon as she got started, she knew it was a weak chicken. What's the use of not even being able to beat her? What are you saying? The girl in green looked at her with some disbelief. Xie Qingyu stared at Lan Meng and sneered, "Luo Junyao, don't think you can say that today's situation hasn't happened. The Luo family's upbringing is really insightful, and my regent's mansion can't bear a woman like you. Even if you try so hard and willingly settle down, you won't be able to step into the regent's mansion." Crazy. Lan Meng rolled her eyes and turned to leave. A hint of anger flashed in Xie Qingyu's eyes, and he reached out to grab Lan Meng again. "Luo Junyao, I'm talking to you. You. I'm so annoyed. Are you looking for a fight?" Pop. Lan Meng, who was about to explode, finally erupted. She slapped away the hand that grabbed her arm, and then slapped Xuanyu in the face with a backhand. She was just a little shorter than that Xuanyu young master, and half of her palm could only barely sweep over the other person's chin. At the door, there was a scream of surprise, and the people who were still whispering suddenly fell silent. They looked at the young girl with angry almond eyes, as if she was about to burst into flames. "Lala, please collect and follow me. The male lead has not yet appeared, so there is a sense of earning some money by posting a small theater." Reporter Feng from Xiaomo Station interviewed the male and female leads of this article. Feng. Could you two briefly introduce yourself? Female lead. Me. Luo. The first female playboy in the Imperial City of Dasheng, the Luo family's human form discrimination machine, the chief shoulder of Anlan Academy, the noble girls' circle of leek harvesters, the non-famous master of Shuangwen, my father's cute and obedient daughter. Junyao. Male lead. Regent of Dasheng, Grand General of Xinghua, and the second-ranked General of Dasheng. Feng. Curious, is the male lead not the first? Who is the first one? Male lead. My future father. In law. Feng. Thumbs up, Your Highness, what a great son. Lol. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Scum. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 3 Scum. Luo, the second miss of the Luo family, actually started hitting Master Xuanyu. Wasn't it their hallucination just now? In the past 2 years, everyone in the entire Shangyong Imperial City knows that the second miss of the Luo family has a special fondness for Prince Xuanyu. No matter how Prince Xuanyu treats her without any false flattery, she still tirelessly pursues behind them. It has simply become the biggest joke in the entire Imperial City. If it weren't for her father being Luo Yun, I'm afraid there would have been no place for her in the Imperial City now. Today was even worse. General Luo, who was stationed at the border, returned to Beijing to report on his duties. The Luo family held a banquet to welcome the general and clean up the dust. I didn't expect that Miss Luo Heir wouldn't even forget to pester her at her own banquet. She really didn't even care about the face of the Luo family. Unexpectedly, he still hurts people by publicly beating Master Xuanyu. Is this relying on her father coming back and wanting to use his power to suppress others? But the young Master Xuanyu is not an ordinary person either. Luo, Jun, shake. Xuanyu Gongzi's handsome face instantly became gloomy. It hurts. Lan Meng let out a soft moan, shook her right hand, and even blew on her lips. You have such thick skin. Go away, weak chicken. What kind of chicken is a weak chicken? The girl in green standing on the side was also startled and said, Shake, how can you use your hand to hit Master Xuanyu? Lan Meng confidently said, I have a headache. I need to go back and rest. Who made him keep nagging? Indeed, most of the time, Lan Meng is a little cute, but she also scores points. As a spoiled group pet, her temper is never particularly good. She has already given face before becoming a bare child. Xie Qingyu has never been slapped in the face in his lifetime, still in public. The curious gazes from the crowd at the entrance made him feel a burning pain on his face, as if Lan Meng's slap was hitting him in the face. Luo, Jun, shake. Xie Qingyu roared softly, the Luo family has raised a daughter like you who is willing to be lowly. It's really embarrassing, General Luo. Today, I will teach you a good lesson for General Luo. After speaking, he raised his hand and slapped Luo Junyao in the face. Xie Qingyu is known for his gentleness and elegance in Shangyong, and even though Luo Junyao has been entangled with him for the past 2 years, he has not lost his composure. Now, despite his dignity, he has resorted to violence against a girl's family, which shows that he has really lost his sanity in anger. How could Luo Junyao make someone hit him? His eyes, which were originally a bit confused, suddenly became extremely clear. On one side of his body, he avoided the slap from Xie Qingyu, and in the next moment, his fist had already hit him. Xuanyu, the young master, couldn't dodge his nose and felt intense pain and soreness, accompanied by the wriggling liquid sliding down. Suddenly hit hard, Prince Xuanyu immediately covered his nose in pain, but the next moment the girl across from him, who was shorter than him, pounced and directly threw him to the ground. Everyone exclaimed in surprise again, Miss Luo Heir is even more vigorous than before. Surprisingly, he threw Xuanyu Gongzi to the ground in public. Is this to force the overlord to bow? However, the petite figure pounced on Xuanyu Gongzi and casually swung its fist, causing a storm of chaos. Tell you to hit me. Tell you to hit me. Beat girls, scumbags. Kill you. Master Xuanyu. The girl next to her was so frightened that her face turned pale. She quickly called out, Shake, what are you doing? Stop it. You guys. Come and pull her away. Master Xuanyu. The person at the door also regained their senses, and without considering watching the play, 2 stronger women rushed in and pulled apart Lan Meng, who was sitting on Prince Xuanyu's body. Lan Meng still couldn't help but feel angry. After being pulled up, she didn't forget to take her foot and forcefully step on the young man's feet on the ground. Scum. Weak chicken. Ugly 8 monsters. Xuanyu Gongzi was finally supported to stand up, and the young man, who was originally elegant, looked pitifully disheveled. His eyes were cold and gloomy as he stared at Lan Meng, who was being pulled by 2 women. He gritted his teeth and said, "All right. This is the tutor of General Luo's family. I have really seen it. When you turn around, you must ask General Luo well how the Luo family raised your daughter. How did the Luo family raise their daughter? There's no need for Master Xuanyu to worry." As soon as Prince Xuanyu's voice fell, a loud male voice sounded behind everyone. At the sound, the faces of several female relatives at the door did not change, and the 2 women who were still holding on to Lan Meng quickly let go. A middle-aged man in his 40s walked over quickly, and the person who was originally crowded at the door immediately gave way. The man was tall and burly, with a handsome appearance that was not particularly handsome. He also exuded the aura of a warrior who had been fighting on the battlefield for many years. As soon as he appeared, people around him couldn't help but shut their mouths. The man quickly stepped into the room and glanced at the crowd before walking up to Lan Meng. Looking down at Lan Meng, she hugged him with heartache and said, "What's wrong with the shaking? Who bullied you? Tell Dad. Don't be afraid, Dad is here. Is General Luo suffering from any eye disease? This is clearly your daughter bullying others." Lan Meng originally wanted to struggle, but in an instant, she felt that this thick embrace was very comfortable and did not feel repulsed. The man's voice somehow made her feel a bit sour, so she continued to huddle in the other person's arms without moving. General Luo Yun of Dingguo looked at his daughter, who had shrunk into a small ball in his arms, and felt even more heartbroken. Who bullied and shook her? Tell Dad, Dad will vent his anger for you. Although he said so, his gaze had already fallen on the embarrassed young man across from him, clearly recognizing that he was bullying his daughter. It turned out to be the father of this body, and Lan Meng felt a bit sorry, which made her heart even more uncomfortable. She didn't know whether it was a time travel or a dream. "Dad, he bullied me. I didn't mean to do it, he said bad things about you. He still wanted to hit me, so I fought back." Lan Mengxiang covered her heart and cried loudly. In situations where the situation is unclear, let yourself occupy the top of public opinion before proceeding. Luo Yun glanced up at the crowd present, and finally turned his gaze back to the disheveled Prince Xuanyu. "Prince Xuanyu, I will personally seek advice from Xia Yan on today's matter," he said after finishing speaking. Xia Qingyu picked up Lan Meng and was about to leave. However, he was secretly shocked and hurriedly said, "General, please stay." Luo Yun just gave him a faint glance, and Xia Qingyu said in a deep voice, "It's not that Xia was impolite. Miss Luo deliberately asked someone to lure Xia here, and..." Luo Yun sneered and said, "What's going on? You shook and said you were the one who started. You can't even beat a girl. Does Master Xuanyu still want me to compensate you? You..." Xia Qingyu's face turned pale as he lowered his head to look at a few footprints on his clothes, gritted his teeth and said, "General Luo is highly respected and respected. Even if he is a short guard, he should make some sense, right?" Luo Yun glanced at everyone present and said calmly, "General, I will investigate the whole story of this matter. Before that, please." Everyone was chatting and chatting, but they eagerly responded. "This is natural, General, please rest assured." "Exactly, the reputation of the girl's family is precious, and we won't say much." As the words were spoken, the women couldn't help but mutter to themselves. Luo Yun may have spoiled this daughter too much. Beat someone like this without even a word of blame. Looking at Prince Xuanyu's swollen face and blue nose, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. What a heinous act, such a graceful and noble young master, who has been ruined into this appearance. Good morning, it will still be updated every morning at 10 a.m. from now on. Lan Meng. Meng Meng is a delicate and lovely girl. Xie Qingyu. Dare you look at my face and say it again. Lan Meng. Scumbag and scumbag. Everyone deserves it and will be executed. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Medicine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Medicine. Luo Junyao nodded before finally turning to Xie Qingyu and coldly saying, if you want to reason with me, Master Xuanyu may not have the qualifications. When Xie Yan returns to the capital, I will personally come to seek advice. After speaking, Luo Yun ignored the others and turned around, holding Lan Meng, before leaving. Please go out, Master Xuanyu. Seeing his back recede, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Some couldn't help but say, General Luo, this is too doting on Miss Luo. After all, she is General Luo's only daughter. Can she not spoil her? Where is there only one? Isn't there 3 girls in the Luo mansion? Someone stole a glance at the young girl in green who was standing on the side with a somewhat desolate expression, and secretly pulled the people around her in a low voice, saying, you just came to the capital and are not familiar with the Luo family. The eldest daughter of the Luo family was born to Lady Luo and her ex-husband. This is the daughter of General Luo's sister, the cousin of the Luo family, and there is only one serious Luo girl. General Luo spoils his daughter like this, and he doesn't know if it's a disaster or a blessing in the future. Well, the second girl of the Luo family can only ignore her own reputation, but also involve her own sisters. Miss Luo and Miss Shen are really pitiful. After watching the show, Xie Qingyu naturally dispersed. He looked down at the girl beside him who was feeling lost and comforted in a soft voice, Lingxiang, don't pay attention to those people's words. In my heart. You are the best girl, and it has nothing to do with your identity. Mrs. Luo is your grandmother, and you are also a girl from the Luo family. A woman like Luo Junyao who is arrogant and overbearing is simply not worthy. Shen Lingxiang forced a smile and said, you don't need to comfort me, after all. Uncle's love for shaking is also deserved. Xie Qingyu looked at her with pity and said, I've wronged you. How is Master Xuanyu injured? I didn't expect that shaking would suddenly hurt someone. It's okay, what if I get beaten a few times as a big man? Don't worry, I won't let anyone bully you with me. Xie Qingyu said with a gloomy expression in his eyes. I'm fine, what's the point of being said a few words? Shen Lingxiang whispered, tears flashing in her beautiful eyes. Xuanyu Gongzi lowered his head to look over, his heart couldn't help but move, and for a moment he was a bit confused. Master Xuanyu, the general has ordered me to escort you out of the mansion. The two families walked over with the handsome men, breaking the hint of ambiguity and charm in the room. Although his tone was respectful, his demeanor revealed a hint of undisguised unkindness. Xuanyu Gongzi's face darkened again and he said in a deep voice, got it, I'll go by myself. Please. Shake, are you scared? Dad has sent someone to find a doctor. If that kid Xie Xuanyu hurts you, Dad will definitely make him look good. Luo Yun carried his daughter back to the warm heart garden where the second daughter of the Luo family lived. The Grand General of Dingguo was now cautious, as if afraid of accidentally injuring the person in his arms. Lan Meng was extremely uncomfortable. If it weren't for her trained willpower beyond ordinary people, she would have collapsed outside. As soon as Lan Meng entered the door, she pushed Luo Yun away and let herself fall to the ground. Shake it. Dad, I feel uncomfortable. There seemed to be a fire burning in her body, and Lan Meng could only barely maintain her clarity. Luo Yun has been wandering for half her life, from a commoner to the current Duke of Dingguo and General of Dingguo. Naturally, she has a wide range of knowledge, and seeing her appearance immediately changed her expression. Shake, don't be afraid, Dad will call someone right away. After saying this, he picked up his daughter and placed her on the bed, then turned around and walked out. After a moment, a few girls hurriedly came in carrying water. Lan Meng vaguely felt herself being put into the slightly cool water, and a gentle girl's voice whispered in her ear, "Girl, don't be afraid, it will be over soon." Lan Meng nodded slowly and gradually lost consciousness. Outside the door, Lady Luo and Lady Su hurriedly rushed over and looked at Luo Yun, who was standing outside with a gloomy expression, asking, "General, what's going on?" Luo Yun remained silent, while Su Shi frowned slightly. There are many guests in the mansion today, and she has been greeting the women in the front hall. It wasn't until the girl came to report that the second girl had an accident that she handed over the outside affairs to the eldest daughter and hurried over. Seeing that Luo Yun didn't want to speak, Su Shi didn't ask much, so he accompanied him and waited. Not long after, the doctors in the mansion walked out from inside. This old doctor used to be a military doctor who followed Luo Yun for more than 10 years. Later, he was injured and grew older, so he came to the Luo family to serve as a specialized doctor in the mansion. Both Luo Yun and Su Shi trust him greatly. "Shen Lao, how's the shaking going?" Luo Yun anxiously approached and asked. The old doctor shook his head and said, "It's not a big deal. Just take the medicine and rest for a while. It's just." The old doctor furrowed his gray eyebrows and said, "It's fine. How could the girl have been taking this medicine? This is the Luo family, the Grand General of Dingguo, and the Duke of Dingguo's mansion. It is absurd that this kind of overpowering medicine appeared in the mansion and was even used on the second daughter of the Luo family." Luo Yun's face was gloomy, and the old doctor didn't ask much. He just waved his hand and said, "It's okay, General's identity, along with 2nd Mississippi. I'll be more careful in the future." Luo Yun nodded and said, "Thank you, Shen is getting old. This won't affect his shaking body, will it?" The old man said, "This medicine is not strong and has little impact on the body. I will prescribe some conditioning medicine later and let the girl take it for a period of time." "Thank you very much, Mr. Shen." Luo Yun finally breathed a sigh of relief. After seeing off the old doctor, Su's face also turned ugly. Although it was just a few words, where could she not understand? She is the head mother of the Luo family, and such a thing happened in the mansion under her jurisdiction. Luo Yun sighed and said, "Go in and talk." The two of them entered the flower hall, and Luo Yun finally told Su what had happened before. Upon hearing this, Su Shi was furious and slapped her palm on the table, saying coldly, "Bastard! Someone! Bring me all the people around Miss Air." The person who appeared at the door responded and quickly disappeared at the door. A moment later, two young girls wearing watercolor clothes and a middle-aged woman were taken up. Seeing the expressions on Luo Yun and Su's faces, the three of them knew that something was not good, and they immediately knelt down on the ground with a limp foot. Su waved her hand to signal the person who brought them in to step back, leaving only her confidant, the female steward. Glancing at Luo Yun, Su Shi lowered her head to look at the three people on the ground and said, "All right, miss, there's an accident. Where are you? I'm treating you for dereliction of duty. Isn't it unjustified?" The three of them shook their heads repeatedly and shouted for justice. Su sneered and said, "You guys stay by the girl's side all day long. If the girl has an accident and you're not by her side, how dare you say you're unjustified?" One of the girls, who looked 17 or 18 years old, lifted her head and said, "Madam Mingjian, it's not that the maids were negligent, it's really the girls. The girls don't allow us to wait in front of you." Su Shi said, "You two are intimate maids next to the girl, and one is the girl's wet nurse. You said the girl doesn't allow you to serve her, so who usually serves her? Let you take the silver for free." The woman hurriedly said, "Madam, Lan Yin is not lying. The girl always only needs Nan Yu and a few others to serve her. Nan Yu was the person that the old lady gave to the girl last year, and we." Su's face looked a bit ugly. "Why didn't you say it earlier?" The three of them dared not speak. Apart from Xiaoli, who was the wet nurse of the second girl, they all had some respect. Lan Yin and Lan Zhen, two maids, were both chosen by the lady. No one knows, the person chosen by the lady doesn't stay with the girl for long. Not only did it stay for a while, but the results were not very good. What else can they do if they want to stay in the girl's yard and keep silent? That's right. Nanyu and other people tried every means to guard against them. They just thought they were the eyeliner that the lady put in the girl's yard. Su naturally knew what was going on and was speechless for a moment. She had known the outcome of her chosen person in Luo Junyao's yard long ago, and over time, she didn't want to bother anymore. The more she worries, the more others guard against her. Why harm others and exhaust oneself? Lan Yin and Lan Zhen have only been in the Warm Heart Garden for 3 months, and seeing that they have not been driven away, she has not inquired. At that time, I only thought that we would be safe and sound for the next 2 to 3 months, and once Luo Yun returned, her responsibility would be taken care of. Who knew that even the wet nurse had been falsely treated by these two maids, and their feelings were kept to deceive her? For a moment, Su's heart was really cold. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Stepmother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Stepmother. Regarding Luo Junyao, the stepdaughter, Su dared not say how well she had done it, but she also asked herself if she had done her best. However, as Luo Junyao grew up, he liked to confront her more and more. She was not originally biological, and even if she didn't get close to her, she would admit it. However, she asked herself that she had never done anything wrong with her, but she guarded her like an enemy. General, you can handle this matter, Su said calmly. Luo Yun naturally noticed Su's despair and knew that it was not her fault. Over the years, Su had been devoted to Yao Yao. He is absent from his side all year round, and Su sure is not his biological mother. Shaking his heart, I'm afraid he often feels uneasy. Some people often stir up discord around Yao Yao, and as she grows older, her relationship with the Su family becomes even worse. To sum up, the Luo family is somewhat sorry for the Su family. The Su family comes from a prestigious family with excellent talent and appearance. If there is anything bad about their reputation in the capital, except for their second marriage, most of them are due to their instability. In the early years of war and poverty, the court advocated for women to remarry, as a second marriage was not considered a bad reputation. People often secretly argue that the dislike of her stepmother by the second daughter of the Luo family must be due to something bad about her stepmother. Su taught her daughter to be both talented and beautiful, but her stepdaughter was uneducated and inexperienced. It is difficult to guarantee that she did not want to give up this stepdaughter. Even Luo Yun had faintly heard of these rumors at the border. How could the Su family not know in the capital? At first, Luo Yun also had doubts, but the results he found would only embarrass him. Yao Yao lost his mother at the age of 2, what can a little child understand? If someone whispers in their ear every day that their stepmother is all sorts of bad, how can a child not be affected? If the person who said this is still their only remaining relatives and elders, how can children easily distinguish right from wrong? Luo Yun cannot blame his daughter or Su Shi, he can only blame himself. It was he who failed to protect his wife, causing his daughter to lose her mother at a young age. It was he who failed to accompany his daughter's growth and left her in the Imperial City for a year without seeing her again. Madam, Yao Yao is too young to understand. I have no knowledge about the family's affairs, so I'm afraid it will have to be hard for you, Luo Yun said softly. Su also knew that she couldn't let go of her responsibilities at this time. Back then, Luo Yun was willing to marry her because of her daughter. Luo Junyao has become what she is today, and she has not fulfilled her promise back then. Rubbing her brows, Su said in a deep voice, "Bring Nan Yu over. The whole group of people from Warm Heart Garden are waiting. No one is allowed to go out without my command." "Yes, madam." A moment later, 2 burly servants walked over with a girl dressed in watercolor. The girl fell to her knees with a thud and said, "Madam Mingjian, it was the message that Miss Eyre asked the maidservants to spread. The maidservants would never dare to tarnish Mrs. reputation on their own. "Shut up," Su said coldly. After looking at the girl, he said, "You've been following her all along. How did she get drugged?" Nanyu was a bit panicked and said, "Medicine." "What medicine?" "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." Su sneered, "Miss, you are usually here to serve, and you also pass on the message. Apart from Miss, only you know that place. Since it's not you. Is it possible that Miss herself or Xie Qingyu brought the medicine in from outside the mansion?" "My servant. I don't know." Nanyu moved her eyes and lowered her gaze. Su Shi looked down at the young girl in front of her coldly, "Madam, I see that you are dishonest if you don't fight." Su Shi is a beautiful and wise woman, even though she is almost 40 years old, she still does not conceal her beautiful appearance. Just looking at her appearance doesn't seem to be very outstanding, but when she cools down, there is always a feeling of not being angry or arrogant. No wonder she was able to firmly occupy the position of the first-class noblewoman in the Yonghuang city as a remarrier without giving birth to a son and a half daughters to Luo Yun. "Drag it down and give me a hard blow. Just leave a breath and it's done." "Yes, madam." The female steward next to Su and Luo Junyao's wet nurse immediately walked towards Nanyu, whose face turned pale as she struggled to escape. But how can a delicate little girl match the strength of two women in their 30s and 40s? The Su family has been managing the Luo family for over a decade and has a considerable authority among the servants. Nanyu repeatedly cried out for justice, but saw that neither Luo Yun nor the Su family on the seat were moved. As she was about to be dragged out, she could only scream, "Madam, spare your life. I'll say it. I'll say it." She knew that Su Shi was not trying to scare her. Even if Su is kind to others, she will never show mercy to her. Because the Su family has never dealt with the old lady and the Shen lady, and she is a person bestowed upon the girl by the old man, while her mother is still the confidant of the Shen lady. Luo Yun said calmly, "After all, if there are only a few words of concealment, you don't have to live anymore." Nanyu shuddered. "General is even more terrifying than Madam." Nanyu regretted deeply at this moment, why did she end up in this matter? "General, Madam Mingjian, Mississippi. I heard that the Mu Prince Mansion is preparing to propose marriage for Prince Xuanyu. The family has been strict and Miss cannot leave these days, so I want to take advantage of today. To have the servant invite Prince Xuanyu to the Yinfeng Pavilion to discuss this matter." The Miss said. "As long as the Mu Prince Mansion sends someone to propose marriage, she will try to get the general to agree. Then, when the time comes, she will be able to stay with Prince Xuanyu forever." Nanyu trembled in her voice. Luo Yun's face darkened as Su Shi asked, "What's wrong with the medicine? Think it over and let's talk. If what the girl wakes up saying is different from what you said." Nanyu bit the corner of her lips and whispered, "The girl only said to invite Prince Xuanyu to discuss, but she didn't mention any medicine. So, was it Xie Qingyu who did it? No wonder Junyao hit him well. Our Luo family girl still understands the bottom line." Luo Yun said coldly, standing up and saying, "You shouldn't have let that bastard go just now. I'm going to catch him now." "No." Nanyu wanted to say something, but soon realized that she shouldn't have spoken and quickly bit her lip. Su Shi grabbed Luo Yun and his sharp gaze fell on Nanyu. "What do you want to say?" "Servant. Servant." Nanyu was a bit flustered. Servant thought. Master Xuanyu has always been fair with girls, maybe it's someone else. Su sneered and said, "Since he didn't use false language, why did he go to see Junyao after hearing your message?" Xie Qingyu said it was the second young master who invited him. "Did you say this, or did the girl ask you to do it?" Nanyu instinctively wanted to speak, but stopped when she met Su Shi's gaze. After a long time, she lowered her head and said in a low voice, yes. It was my servant who made the decision. I thought. If it were a girl, Prince Xuanyu might not want to go. That's why. Su turned her head to the female steward beside her and said, take this girl down and ask her carefully. No one is allowed to see her without orders from me and the general. Then you can personally investigate and see if anyone has bought that medicine in the past few days. Shen Lao said that the medicine is not commonly circulated and not used by many people, so it should not be difficult to investigate. Luo Yun said next to him, it's not convenient for the people in the mansion to check this. I'll have someone go and check it. Luo Yun holds 300,000 Xuanjia soldiers, naturally having a special channel of information. Su nodded and said, okay, then I'll trouble General. After speaking, his gaze coldly swept over Nanyu on the ground, don't let me find out that this matter has anything to do with you, otherwise. Your whole family won't be able to live. Nanyu shuddered and lowered her head in fear. After Nan Yu and others left, Su said to Luo Yun, General, this matter cannot be made public. Luo Yun frowned and said coldly, is that all that's left? Su Shi said, the exact situation is still unknown. There are ways to teach Xie Qingyu a lesson. However, we must not let Junyao be related to that medicine or anything else. Junyao handled it very well this time, and we firmly believe that it was Xie Qingyu who spoke rudely to the general before Junyao took action. Upon her reminder, Luo Yun also came to his senses and said, Madam is right. Xie Qingyu can come back and clean up, but his daughter's reputation is of utmost importance. A bad reputation is different from a bad reputation. One thing is having an arrogant and irritable temper or being infatuated with Xie Qingyu, but if one gets involved in those things, it's another thing. Shaking in sleep today, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. Father and Daughter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Father and Daughter. After Lan Meng took a cold shower and was filled with a large bowl of medicine, the unbearable heat gradually dissipated. She lay flat on the bed, staring at the exquisite embroidered patterns on the top of the bed and muttering in her heart, don't let this girl know who did it, sooner or later I'll kill you. Sheikh, are you okay? Luo Yun walked in and looked at his daughter who was staring blankly at the top of the bed. He reached out and touched her forehead in pain, asking. Lan Meng shook her head and whispered, it's okay, thank you Dad. She was still feeling a bit guilty, looking at the tall and burly man in front of her without knowing where to put her eyes. If she is recognized as a fake, will she be burned as a monster? In an instant, widely circulated survival guides came to mind. Amnesia. Affected and greatly changed in temperament. Or just sneak through. But how can she get by without the memory of the original owner? Seeing her wilting appearance, Luo Yun felt even more heartbroken. Do you remember anything else? Don't be afraid of shaking. With your father around, no one dares to bully you in the future. Lan Meng took a sniff and suddenly felt a slight sourness in her nose. This is a father who loves and is very nervous about his daughter, but his daughter has disappeared, she is not his daughter. At the same time, she felt a bit sad. Her father had never spoken to her so gently before. It's not that her father doesn't hurt her, but that she's so busy that even meeting someone is a luxury. Since Lan Meng had memories, her parents have been living in the laboratory every day. Even her grandparents, uncles, cousins, and cousins have been loyal to the country. Lan Meng was raised by a nanny since childhood. Although she doesn't lack food and clothing, her family also cares and loves her very much. But for a young child who is only a few years old, it is difficult to experience even the deepest love for their parents if they do not see them twice a year. Lan Meng grew up in such an environment since childhood, but she did not become independent and resilient. Although she entered the National Security Department due to her special talent in information technology when she grew up, she was actually the most delicate and spoiled among the 5 girls in the fox's nest. Ultimately, it's a lack of love. She acted coquettishly because she wanted attention and hugging, which hurt. Xia Anlan once joked that she had skin thirst. In her still immature childhood, she even secretly wished on her birthday that her parents' laboratory research institute would all go bankrupt, so that her parents could always be with her. Suddenly remembering that she would never see her parents again, Lan Meng felt even more uncomfortable in her heart. I don't know if my parents know she's dead. They must be very sad, right? Thinking of this, tears couldn't help but fall down with a clattering sound. Shaking. Looking at such a daughter, Luo Yun felt somewhat at a loss. He doesn't have much experience with his daughter, and he was already stationed at the border when his wife gave birth to her. When his daughter was 2 years old, his wife passed away. He had originally taken both his son and daughter to the border, but the harsh environment at the border was too delicate for his daughter to bear. In just a few days, the originally white little doll was on the verge of death from illness. Luo Yun had no choice but to send his daughter back to the capital for education. Fortunately, her stepwife Su was the cousin of her deceased wife, who died in battle with her own daughter. After learning that he intended to find a stepmother to take care of his daughter, he took the initiative to come and express his willingness to be his daughter's stepmother. The old mother was old and had a disagreement with her late wife, and she was also very indifferent to her granddaughter. After careful consideration, Luo Yun agreed to Su's proposal and married Su as his stepmother. However, as her daughter grew up, her relationship with the Su family was not very good. Instead, she had a close relationship with her widowed sister Luo and niece in the mansion. Mrs. Luo has a bad relationship with his original wife and also doesn't like this granddaughter. On the contrary, after Su entered the door, she became 2 points closer to her granddaughter because she disliked her, but it's hard to say how much of it was genuine. The older my daughter grows up, the more hostile she becomes towards her stepmother and stepsister. My original wish for a stepwife to raise my daughter was considered a failure. Luo Yun cannot blame his stepwife for this. As a stepmother, Su sure is very diligent and responsible. Although Yao Yao refused to listen to her teachings, she was in charge of the feedbacks in the mansion, and no one dared to mistreat Yao Yao in terms of food, clothing, and expenses, which could be considered a comfort to Luo Yun. Daughters not only have a bad relationship with their stepmother, but also become more distant from their father and brother. Luo Yun knows that he only spends a few days a year with his daughter, and sometimes he can't even see her for 2 or 3 years. Separation is normal, where can we blame our daughter? Now that the border is peaceful and the 2 sons have grown up to be able to stand on their own, Luo Yun plans to stay in Beijing for a while longer this time. I also plan to see a good family for my daughter as she is getting older. Although he believes in the character of the Su family, his daughter's marriage is a lifelong event, and he still needs to personally see it to feel at ease. Although Luo Yun has only been back for 2 days, he is also aware of the matter of Luo Junyao's heart pleasing the Grand Prince of the Regent's Mansion, Xie Qingyu. Luo Yun originally thought that if his daughter really liked it, even if he didn't want to get involved in those things, he would still be willing to marry the Regent's Mansion. Who would have thought that today's incident would have happened before he could inquire carefully? Luo Yun knew that Xie Qingyu was by no means a shaky and good match, and he had no intention of agreeing to this marriage. Xie Xuanyu doesn't like his daughter, what kind of thing is he? Do you really consider yourself the eldest son of the Regent's Mansion? It's just Shibei goods. As for the rumors that his daughter is arrogant and domineering, Luo Yun doesn't care about these small things. His father and brother are not at home all year round, and even if Su sure is good at Yao Yao, there are inevitably some shortcomings. Being arrogant and domineering is better than being weak, cowardly, and bullied. Shake, listen to your dad. Xie Xuanyu is not a good person, can we not want him? Dad will definitely find you a better Rui husband later. As Luo Yun spoke, he tugged at the young generals under his command. High skills, good martial arts, good health, good character, and also good looking. The most important thing is that under his command, he can keep an eye on it, and in the future, his son will also keep an eye on it, not letting anyone bully his precious daughter. Luo Junyao dared not speak, but leaned against Luo Yun's embrace and nodded heavily. Who is Xie Xuanyu? That's not important. Seeing his daughter agreeing so easily, Luo Yun was also taken aback. He thought it would take some time for his daughter to accept it. After all, this young girl's worries are always difficult for a rough man like him to understand. I heard this little girl has been chasing Xie Qingyu for over 2 years. Why did she give up so easily? Is it because today's situation is sad? Anyway, just give up. Luo Yun immediately said, Good child, what kind of person do you like? Let's find someone who looks even more handsome than Xie Qingyu. Lan Meng nodded. Dad, I'm a bit tired. Luo Yun immediately said, Did you just get scared? Dad won't bother you anymore, you can rest a little longer. Well, Dad, take your time, Lan Meng breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said. Luo Yun watched as she pulled up the blanket and covered her head together, helplessly shaking her head and reaching out to tuck the blanket down a bit before getting up and leaving. As for today's matter, let's wait until we wake up and ask again. The new article has been successfully signed, thank you for your support. Send a small red envelope. Love you. New article, please follow me. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Idiots and Fools. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Idiots and Fools. Luo Yun walked out the door and saw a tall young man in his early 20s standing outside the door waiting for him. The young man is tall, handsome, and full of heroic spirit. Dad, is shaking okay? Luo Yun shook his head and said, It's okay, I'm asleep. Why don't I go in? The young man said, Yao Yao doesn't like me. Maybe he'll get angry even when he sees me. Luo Yundao said, Just now, I saw that Yao Yao seemed to have behaved a lot better. Don't be scared, right? The young man raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, Even if you're scared, it should be Xie Qingyu with a swollen face and a blue nose, right? However, remembering that my younger sister had just been robbed, the young man's mood also became gloomy. Dad, do you really not want that Xie Qingyu? Luo Yun snorted lightly and said, That little white face is not worthy of my Luo Yun's daughter. Zhongchen, what you were asked to investigate. Regarding the incident where Xie Qingyu was beaten by his own daughter, Luo Yun had no remorse or apology at all, only full of disgust. How dare you claim to be both civil and military when you can't even beat a 16-year-old girl? Isn't it someone else who brought face to Xie Yan and boasted about him as the first young master of the capital? And today's matter, if you were to find out that it was related to Xie Qingyu, even the Mu Prince's mansion and the regent's mansion would not be able to save him. The young man was the second son of Luo Yun, Luo Jingxing, with the courtesy name Zhongchen. Dad, don't worry. There will definitely be results in at most 2 days, Luo Jingxing said with a serious expression. Very good, Luo Yun said fiercely, I want to see who dares to plan on my Luo Yun's daughter. Luo Yun still trusts his daughter, even if she is stubborn, she will not use such vulgar means. Yes. Luo Jingxing's eyes flashed with a hint of cruelty, daring to plan and shake. Are these people really considered to shake without their father and siblings? Lan Meng had a dream where there was a young girl named Luo Junyao. She is the daughter of General Luo Yun of the Dingguo Kingdom in the Dasheng Dynasty, with 2 older brothers on top. She lost her mother at a young age, and her father was unable to take care of her due to years of war. Therefore, she married Mrs. Luo's cousin, Su, who had lost her husband, as her stepwife to take care of her daughter. The father and son of the Luo family are always at the border, and her stepmother is indeed very kind to her. Her stepsister, who is only over a year older than her, also loves her very much. But as she grew up, she always heard her grandmother and aunt say that her stepmother was not good, took up her own mother's position, and looked at her own daughter everywhere, and so on. Over time, Luo Junyao gradually developed a rift with his stepmother and stepsister, and instead became close to his grandmother, aunt, and cousin. She doesn't quite remember how her stepmother stayed up all night holding her when she was very young, and how her grandmother ignored her. When she was 13 years old, she went out to play in the city and met a bad person. She was saved by Xie Qingyu, known as the most beautiful man in the capital. Love fell at first sight, and from then on, the once smooth and worry-free life was marked to an end. She strives to please Xie Qingyu and approaches him at every possible opportunity, delighted by his gaze and words. No matter what, as long as Xie Qingyu glanced at it again, she would put in a lot of effort to get it as a gift for him, even if it was a rare treasure sent back by his father from the border. Outsiders only say that Luo Junyao is shameless and relentlessly pursues a man who is indifferent to himself. But they didn't know that Xie Qingyu was not so indifferent to her privately. Occasionally, he would give her small gifts and tell her about his struggles. Although he is the eldest son of the regent's mansion, everyone knows that Regent Xie Yan is not his biological father. He was originally only the son of Xie Heng, the illegitimate eldest son of Prince Mu's mansion, and Xie Yan was his own uncle. It was only because Xie Yan was in his 20s but still had no wife or children, and his grandfather was worried that if he had any accidents on the battlefield, there would be no one behind him, that he was adopted by Xie Yan. He said that although people openly respect him as the eldest son of the regent's mansion, they secretly mock him for calling him a father who is only 10 years older than themselves. He said he wants to make his own achievements and make people look up to him. He cannot like her, he cannot make people think that he is greedy for the power of the Dingguo general. Luo Junyao was very sad, but her cousin kept comforting her. My cousin said that men all love face, so if Xie Qingyu wants to enter the court and become an official, his reputation is even more important. When he felt that he was worthy of General Luo's daughter, everything would naturally be fine. For this day, she needs to be patient and secretly help him achieve faster success. My cousin helped her write letters when she couldn't write them, gave her advice, and helped her choose gifts that Prince Xuanyu would like. Be careful to comfort and enlighten her when she is sad. Compared to scolding her stepsister who couldn't do it and couldn't do it everywhere, Luo Junyao felt that his cousin was indeed his true relative. Until her father returned 2 days ago, she was struggling to tell him her thoughts, but her cousin told her a piece of news. The Prince Mu's mansion has started preparing to select a wife for Xie Qingyu. The young lady of the Prince Mu's mansion has already selected a few of her favorites and will only wait for the regent to return to the capital to inspect them before selecting one to betroth Xie Qingyu. She immediately panicked and quickly grabbed her cousin, begging her to find a way. My cousin is also very distressed. She only said that Prince Xuanyu has neither achievements nor official positions, and my uncle and Regent Wang have never dealt with him. I'm afraid even if he were mentioned, he wouldn't agree. If there is any way to make my uncle have to agree, that would be great. After pondering for a long time, she decided to meet Xie Qingyu first so that they could discuss this matter together. However, her father had just returned home and kept a strict eye on her. These past few days, she had no chance to go out, so she had to take advantage of today and have someone come to find Xie Qingyu. She wants to tell Xie Qingyu to invite his family to come and propose marriage. As long as this matter is confirmed, she will find a way to persuade her father to agree no matter what. But she didn't understand. Why did he suddenly change his face when he was invited to Yingfeng Pavilion? The man who used to be a humble gentleman suddenly became terrifying. He wanted to belittle her, but when she refused, he looked contemptuous and said she pretended to be reserved, shameless, and despicable. He whispered in her ear, "Luo Junyao, since you are so cheap and want to marry me so much, then this young master will fulfill you. Why not act like a complete set? Remember. This is what you asked for yourself. Who else besides me would want you like this? Having a daughter like you, Luo Yun, is truly a lifelong loss of fame." She thought, perhaps she is really shameless and despicable, isn't she? She once eagerly held on to the wallet she had cooked for several nights and offered it to him, but he looked down upon it and was ridiculed by his friends for being so ugly that even beggars wouldn't want it. She once waited in the snow for Xie Qingyu to make an appointment, but when she caught a cold and fainted with a fever, Xie Qingyu never showed up. But as long as he had someone bring a worthless little thing, saying that he was tripped up and didn't intentionally break the promise, she would be happy. She once went to great lengths to buy an ancient painting from someone at a high price because Xie Qingyu said she liked it, but he gave it to someone else. She once embroidered a handkerchief with his name written on it and gave it to him, but he threw it to the servants around him to use as a cloth. The entire imperial city knew that everyone laughed at the second girl of the Luo family as a flower lover. Although he was ridiculed, Luo Junyao did not feel very sad at the time. Because she knew he didn't mean it, he just didn't want people to think he was greedy for the power of General Luo. She is the daughter of the Grand General of Dingguo. Her father was a hereditary Dingguo duke personally conferred by Emperor Taining of Gaozu, who controlled one of the two elite forces of Dasheng, the Xuanjia army, and 1/3 of the troops. If it weren't for the young emperor's age, she could have wanted to be the empress. My cousin said that Xie Qingyu is just too proud and unwilling to be looked down upon. Luo Junyao doesn't mind. She thinks her cousin is right. If Xie Qingyu has his pride, she will lower herself a bit. She always thought she was working hard and compromising for their future. But at that moment, Xie Qingyu's malicious gaze made her suddenly become extremely clear, as if she had never been clear in the past few years. He really hates him and looks down on her. The ups and downs caused by her pride in him were nothing more than occasional kindness he gave her when she was in a good mood, and most of the time he just looked down on her. At that moment, immense pain swept over her, and she weakly sank herself into deep darkness. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Junyao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Junyao, stupid little girl, how miserable. Lan Meng thought in her heart. But then what? Where has the real Luo Junyao gone? A pale girl appeared in front of her. She had the same face as Luo Junyao in the dream, but she was so pale that she almost didn't look like a person with that lively and arrogant girl. Are you Luo Junyao? Lan Meng asked. Do you still have a dress change in your dream? Is this the uniform of ghosts? The girl nodded and said to her, You are also Luo Junyao. I'm not that, Lan Meng said. I'm Lan Meng. Blue in the blue sky, cute ya. Luo Junyao said, In the future, you will be. Lan Meng frowned with some confusion, You. Don't you want to go back? Luo Junyao shook his head with a gloomy expression in his eyes. Why? Who didn't encounter a few scumbags when they were young? Do you have to give up on life and your family for such a small matter? Luo Junyao smiled and shook his head, and Lan Meng felt a bit strange. This girl in white clothes was not at all like the Luo Junyao she saw. Are you really going to give up your body to me? Are you not afraid of me doing something bad? Lan Meng asked. Luo Junyao said, I know you are a good person and won't do anything bad. There was nothing around, and Lan Meng sat down on the empty ground, holding her cheek with one hand and looking at Luo Junyao. Don't you miss your dad? Your dad loves you very much, she said. Luo Jun shook his head and said, I am very foolish, very foolish. I am not worthy of being the daughter of the Grand General of Dingguo, am I? Lan Meng was a bit puzzled and said, although you're a bit. Well, it's not worth it. Besides, dad is just dad, there's nothing worthy or unworthy. As long as you don't do anything outrageous, that's all. She didn't become a powerful researcher like her parents. My dad is a great hero, but I will only make him lose face, Luo Junyao said with a bitter smile. Lan Meng said, I understand. Who didn't meet a few scumbags when they were young? Sister, as long as you pick yourself up, you're still the coolest kid in the entire imperial city. Don't forget, you're General Luo's daughter. Luo Junyao smiled and said, although I don't know where you come from, I believe you will definitely be a good daughter. Meng, please do it in the future. Ah. You can easily trust others. As if sensing what she was thinking, Luo Junyao smiled and said, you have seen my memories, and of course I have also seen yours. I know you are a good person. Luo Junyao walked up to Lan Meng and crouched down, spreading his arms around her. From now on, you will be Luo Junyao, please. Remember, don't believe in Xie Qingyu. Lan Meng reached out her hand and was about to hug her back, but the woman in front of her had disappeared without a trace, as if something intangible had enveloped her. Little sister. Little sister. A hand gently covered her forehead, and Lan Meng. Luo Junyao suddenly opened his eyes. Are you calling Mingxiang or Lingxiang? How did you become a little sister again? A soft male voice sounded in her ear, and Lan Meng looked at the young man in blue sitting by her bed in a daze. Ah. The young man felt helpless and said, you haven't woken up yet. Didn't you just call for your sister? You want to see cousin Lingxiang? I'll send someone to invite her over. Lan Meng was stunned for a while before she realized it. She quickly shook her head and whispered, Big brother. Facing the father and brother of the original owner, she always feels a bit guilty. However, at this moment, there was an inexplicable sense of closeness, unlike the previously feared guilt when facing Luo Yun. Be good. The young man pressed Luo Junyao's head with a big hand, his voice carrying a gentle smile. The doctor has already come and said you were frightened. After taking medicine and resting for 2 days, you will be fine. Lan Meng thought to herself, I have died once before, and the shock is indeed quite great. Now, I am Luo Junyao. She found it not difficult to accept this identity, just like accepting the young man in front of her as her big brother. In the future, I will be Luo Junyao, she silently said to herself. Big brother, how long have I slept? When is it now? Luo Junyao asked softly. Luo Jin said, you've been sleeping for half a day. It's already 1:15 midnight and my parents are already seeing off guests. Luo Junyao has figured out what happened this afternoon. Although it was originally Luo Junyao's actions, it is now her fault. Big brother, I'm sorry, I was wrong, Luo Jun shook his head and whispered. If this matter were to spread today, it would not only embarrass her alone, but also the entire Luo family. After a moment of silence, Luo Jinyan rubbed the top of her hair and whispered, it's okay, with my brother and dad around, don't be afraid. Originally, Luo Jinyan was not without any anger in his heart, but he still wanted to ask his sister in person. Sheikh, honestly tell big brother, what exactly happened this afternoon? Luo Jinyan asked seriously. Being a family member, even though they know that their own people are also at fault, they still cannot help but want to blame others for all their mistakes. Luo Jun shook his head and pondered for a moment before whispering, I'm sorry, big brother. I won't be able to marry him again. My cousin told me that Xie Qingyo's family is going to choose a marriage for him, but my dad. He doesn't like the people in the regent's mansion, so he definitely doesn't like him. That's why I. Luo Junyao carefully recounted his memories to the person in front of him. You said it was Xie Qingyu who wanted to belittle you, that's why you started hitting him. Luo Jinyan's gentle face flashed with a fierce expression. Luo Jun nodded, she could only be considered as self-protection at the time. She had no memory and had no idea what was going on, but the situation at the time still had the attitude of Xie Qingyu. No matter how the situation started, she first pushed the blame onto him before making a decision. Even if it can't be pushed away, hitting someone is better than getting along with them, right? Moreover, her physical condition at the time may not necessarily have led to Xie Qingyu being unjustly accused. Luo Jinyan's expression was gloomy. Did Xiang give you the idea? Does she also know about this? Luo Jun shook his head and said, my cousin only said that it would be great if my father had to agree. It was me. Who came up with such an idea? I think. If the Mu Wang mansion comes to propose marriage, I must marry him, and my father will always agree. Luo Junyao didn't know what she meant. It was nothing more than crying, making trouble, and hanging herself. Not to mention, with his father's love and guilt for Yao Yao, he couldn't resist her. Luo Junyao lowered his eyes and said thoughtfully, "Who else besides Nan Yu knows about your appointment with Xie Qingyu at Yingfeng Pavilion?" Luo Junyao said, "I only told my cousin." Luo Junyao was so angry at the words that he sneered repeatedly, "Great. Great. Where can Luo Junyao not understand what's going on? This is clearly a deliberate attempt to destroy the sheikh. Xie Xuanyu is so bold. Do you really think that no one dares to touch him, even if you are a dragon and phoenix grandson? So, what role did Shanlingxiang play in this? She was the first to discover and lead others over. But if she were also a participant, as long as it's a little later, she might not be able to withstand the poison on her body when she shakes. When the time comes, she will cook raw rice and mature rice." Luo Junyang's face was gloomy, and the mystery behind it needs further investigation. Please follow, please collect. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Brothers and Sisters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Brothers and Sisters. What else did Luo Junyao want to ask? A girl wearing a light purple shirt walked in with a food box from outside. "Big brother, have you woken up?" Luo Junyao crossed over Luo Junyao and looked at her. The woman had a delicate and bright appearance, different from the charming Shanlingxiang. Her eyebrows and eyes were sparse and beautiful, and her every move was dignified. "This is her stepsister, Miss Luo Mingxiang from the Luo family." "Big sister," Luo Junyao called out softly, "did big sister bring me food?" "Thank you, big sister." Not only Luo Mingxiang, but also Luo Junyao, who sat next to her and felt that her sister would wake up very different, was also taken aback. Luo Mingxiang couldn't even remember the last time Luo Junyao called her sister, let alone calling someone so crispy and soft as big sister. Is it still before the age of 7 or 8 for Luo Junyao? When Luo Junyao was 7 years old, he was forcibly brought by an old lady to raise him. Over time, he gradually distanced himself from them. Big sister. Luo Mingxiang regained his senses and saw Luo Junyao sitting on the bed, humbly looking at himself. "Big sister, I'm hungry." Luo Mingxiang couldn't think too much, and calculated that she had not eaten for almost a day. "Open the food box and take out a cup of carefully cooked congee and a few dishes of soft dim sum. Get up and eat. It's getting late. Eat less, so that you won't sleep at night." Luo Junyao cheered and quickly climbed out of bed to gather at the table to eat. She is really hungry, always feeling like she hasn't eaten anything for a long time. Next to them, Luo Mingxiang and Luo Junyao looked up at the little girl sitting at the table eating happily and exchanged a glance. "Did you just fall asleep and become a different person? Or can hitting really make people grow? Young master, young lady, second girl, cousin, come and see second girl." The girl respectfully reported outside the door. Before Luo Mingxiang could speak, Luo Junyao said calmly, "Tell my cousin that Miss Air is feeling unwell and needs to rest. Let her come and see you another day." "Yes," the girl responded and went down. Luo Mingxiang looked at Luo Junyao with some surprise and didn't ask much when he saw that Luo Junyao's sword eyebrows were slightly furrowed. Look at Luo Junyao again. She is eating dim sum with relish, as if she didn't hear what the girl said. Sensing Luo Mingxiang's gaze, Luo Junyao blinked in confusion and said, "Big sister, do you want to eat?" Luo Mingxiang twitched his lips and shook his head, saying, "I'm not hungry, you can eat." "Oh, okay." Seeing this, Luo Junyao hesitated and said, "Sheikh, the Nanyu and Nanju around you can't serve you these days. Tomorrow, please ask your mother to add a few more people for you. Is that okay?" Luo Jun hesitated for a moment before quickly nodding and saying, "Okay." These two people are the most familiar with her, although she has silly memories of Luo Junyao. it is difficult to guarantee that she will not be seen by anyone. Also, if Luo Junyao didn't see it, it doesn't mean she can't understand either. It's hard to say who the masters of those two girls are. She is not a foolish Luo Junyao anymore. Be good, Luo Jinyan said with a faint smile on his lips just as Luo Junyao finished his meal. Luo Yun and Su Shi, who had already seen off the guests, came over. Luo Yun comforted his daughter in a soft voice, watching her fall asleep again before turning around and leaving. No one mentioned anything about what happened this afternoon from beginning to end. Luo Junyao lay alone on the spacious carved bed, rolling a few times before stopping. Whether from memory or in reality, the Luo family really treats Luo Junyao very well. However, she actually has some understanding of the original owner, just like herself. Of course, she also knows that her parents love her very much, but these rational love cannot replace the child's longing for the company of their loved ones. She has grown up and is still doing well. When she was still very young, she would cry and make a scene when her parents left, and she would get angry with them when they only came back after a year and a half. But her living environment is much better, and people around her will provide positive guidance. But the original owner is much worse. Her good stepmother and stepsister are not biological, and the only biological grandmother actually doesn't like her as much. Auntie and cousin seem to be very kind to her, but they have ulterior motives in their words and actions to sow discord. Although the original owner was foolish, she wasn't that bad either. She was extremely in love with Xie Qingyu and did everything in her power to prevent women from approaching him, causing herself to lose her reputation. But at most, she only ran a bank to stop those girls from approaching Xie Qingyu, never harming them, let alone using any dark means to frame anyone. She hates her stepsisters and stepmothers, and is only not very polite to them. Occasionally, she is fooled into helping her aunt and cousin fight against them, but subjectively, she never thinks about how to harm them. Perhaps it is precisely because of this that the older sister is still willing to calmly come and bring her food and listen to her speech today. Rolling on the bed for a while, Luo Junyao finally fell asleep in a daze. Before falling asleep, I vaguely thought that if I saw that silly little girl again, I must tell her her family loved her very much and did not blame her. In the study of the Luo family, Luo Yun and Su Shi sat side by side, and Luo Jin said that the two brothers, Luo Jin Xing, stood side by side. Luo Yun slammed a page of paper in his hand onto the table and gritted his teeth, saying, "Sincerely, is this the result you gave me?" Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with his second son's achievements. Luo Jingxing's face also looked a bit ugly. "Dad, I have been secretly arrested and tortured. The other party insisted that they bought it to boost their fun, and I don't know who stole it." Luo Yun sneered, "Do you believe this?" Luo Jingxing certainly didn't believe it. The child will continue the interrogation. Luo Jinyan frowned slightly and asked, "What about the girl named Nanyu and the person who approached Dingfeng Pavilion this afternoon?" Luo Jingxing said, "We have all caught them and they are still under review. That person named Nanyu has been letting out the wind and has never entered. However, the medicine is made of spices and time must be controlled. So the shaking must have been in the Windward Pavilion, but we haven't found any traces of spices in the Windward Pavilion. Neither the incense burner nor the sachet." Luo Jinyan pondered, obviously someone took advantage of the situation. The incense burner is too conspicuous, it should be a sachet or something small and inconspicuous. Luo Yun frowned and said, "When I took Yao Yao away, I had someone send the others away and block the Yingfeng Pavilion. If I remember correctly, everyone else was outside the door, and only 2 women entered. They shouldn't have this time." Luo Jin said, "There is one more person." After a moment of silence in the study, Luo Yun said, "Are you saying, Ling Xiang?" Luo Jinyan nodded calmly and looked up at Luo Yundao, saying, "Ao Yao wants to see Xie Qingyu at the Yingfeng Pavilion, which Xiang also knows. And it is likely that she instigated it secretly." Luo Jingxing was taken aback and a little skeptical. "Big brother, I don't think Xiang has a good relationship with Yao Yao, right? Luo Junyao said in a deep voice, only with good relationships can we know the specific situation. If the relationship is not good, will Yao Yao still talk about his own affairs everywhere? Luo Jingxing's face suddenly darkened. He had a good impression of this cousin, but if the other party really calculated and wavered, don't blame him for being impolite. Sitting next to her, Su frowned and said, if it's spices, why doesn't Prince Xuanyu show any signs of poisoning? Is that medicine only effective for women? Everyone was taken aback, and Luo Junyang's face suddenly turned ugly. He said coldly, Xie Qingyu took the medicine to restrain his medicinal properties in advance. Is this really related to him? The study was quiet, and a small prince from the royal family could even reach out to the Luo family. Luo Junyang's sword eyebrows furrowed tightly, but for some reason he still felt a bit strange about it. If Xie Qingyu really wants to marry the Luo family, he just needs to follow Yao Yao's instructions and have the Mu prince's mansion propose the marriage. To put it another way, just show people that he behaves intimately with Yao Yao. On the contrary, it's about prescribing medicine. Not only is it unnecessary, but once exposed, it will also anger my father. For Xie Qingyu, it is possible to make things worse, but it is not a good thing. Xie Qingyu is arrogant and determined that Yao Yao is infatuated with him, and the possibility of prescribing medicine itself is not high. Moreover, since driving Xie Qingyu away, he has been secretly watched by people. Xie Qingyu's behavior seemed to be completely unaware that the shaking had been drugged. Is it difficult for this person to be so cunning that they pretended to pose only because they knew they would be watched by someone? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Calculation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Calculation. Madam, what do you think? Luo Yun looked at Su Shi and asked. Su rubbed her eyebrows and said in a deep voice, unless someone sees it with their own eyes. It's probably difficult to find evidence now. It has been so long, even if it was Shenlingxiang, he probably destroyed that thing long ago. I'll go ask her now. Luo Jingxing said. Su glanced at her stepson and said, since it's already late, what's the use of asking now? It's just a waste of time. Luo Jingxing frowned and Su Shi said, fortunately, the round of shaking today was a good one. On this point, whether the stepdaughter really came to her senses in a hurry or suddenly became dizzy, Su Shi wanted to praise her. The second girl from the Luo family hit someone, it's not a big deal. But if the second daughter of the Luo family is seen entangled with a man in the Wind Pavilion, that would be a big deal. She heard someone say that Xie Qingyu was beaten and his face was swollen. The harder the fight, the further it relates to that kind of thing. Even if there is a legend that Miss Luo Air was rejected for love and angrily attacked, it is hundreds of times better than what could have happened. With the reputation of Luo Junyao, being rejected for love and being beaten is not particularly unimaginable. Regardless of whether Shenlingxiang is related to this matter or not, today's incident. Xie Qingyu is the culprit. Luo Junyao said in a deep voice. Su said, this matter cannot be made public. Can we just eat this loss like this? Luo Jingxing said reluctantly. Su glanced at him and said, I just said, you can't put it on the table. Even if you really want to trouble Xie Qingyu, you have to wait for this period of time before we can talk. This world is unfair to women, and the reputation of the girl's family cannot tolerate any negligence. Luo Jingxing and Luo Junyao exchanged a glance, both seeing a hint of meaning in each other's eyes. It cannot be placed on the table, but there are still many ways to tidy up people under the table. Late at night, Xie Qingyu walked into the study gate in the front courtyard of Prince Mu's mansion with a gloomy expression on his face. Although half a day has passed, the anger and shame in Xie Qingyu's heart have not yet dissipated. Prince Xuanyu has never been so embarrassed before. In public, he was beaten by a little girl and even kicked out of the door. If this is someone else, Xie Qingyu will never make them feel better. But the other party is Luo Yun, but he is powerless. Now that the emperor is young and the empress dowager is hanging down, the power in the court is actually controlled by several auxiliary ministers, while military power is controlled by Luo Yun and Regent Xia Yan. In his early years, Luo Yun followed Emperor Taining of Gaozu to pacify the world, holding one of the elite forces of Dasheng, the Xuanjia army, and 1/3 of Dasheng's troops. Not to mention being a small prince of the royal family, even the current prime minister and the regent himself have to give him some face. And Luo Junyao is the only daughter of Luo Yun. Xie Qingyu walked into the study of Prince Mu's mansion, where two people were waiting for him. King Mu is already 50.9 years old this year. Unlike his elder brother, Emperor Taining, who fought for his entire life, he is a person who has never been to the battlefield and lived a lifetime in the Jinqiu pile. Although nearing the age of 60, it looks like the age of 40. Although there is already a silver thread on the head, it still looks a bit elegant and handsome at first glance. Sitting below him was a middle-aged man in his early 40s. Although he was also getting older, the man still had a handsome appearance and a noble and well-mannered demeanor. But there was a hint of greasiness and cunning between the eyebrows and eyes, which destroyed the originally beautiful appearance. Grandfather, father. Uncle. Xie Qingyu bowed respectfully. That middle-aged man is the illegitimate eldest son of Prince Mu's mansion, Xie Qingyu's biological father, Xie Heng. He just sat with King Mu, and they didn't look like father and son, but rather like brothers. I'll have someone call you in the evening, why are you here now? King Mu frowned as he looked at Changsun, his voice carrying a hint of displeasure. Xie Qingyu naturally dared not say that he was feeling angry and drunk, and had just woken up. Some things have been delayed, my grandson knows his mistake. King Mu looked at his grandson in front of him and squinted slightly, what's going on this afternoon? Xie Qingyu suddenly remembered the humiliation he had suffered in the afternoon and blushed. Xie Qingyu said with some displeasure, then Luo Yun is a martial artist who relies on his military power. If it weren't for his good luck in dealing with Emperor Gaozu back then, what would he be? King Mu's expression remained calm and not moved by his words. He asked calmly, how have you been with the girl from the Luo family? Xie Qingyu looked a bit annoyed. Grandfather, that Luo Junyao has a stubborn and domineering personality, and is extremely dull. How can such a woman be worthy of being a regent prince's consort? He had originally thought of marrying Luo Yun for the sake of her face, but he didn't expect her to be so disrespectful. Who do you think is suitable? Mu Wang squinted slightly and said, the girl's surname Shen. Speaking of Shen Lingxiang and Xie Qingyu, his eyes softened and he hesitated for a moment before saying, Lingxiang is also a member of the Luo family. King Mu sneered and said, are you also from the Luo family? Can you ask, does Luo Yun recognize her as the daughter of the Luo family? Even her mother has no blood relationship with the Luo family. She's an orphan under someone else's protection. Who are you fooling? But Xie Qingyu was particularly unwilling. King Mu said, you said that the girl from the Luo family is not worthy of being the crown princess of the regent's mansion. Without her, it's hard to say if you could become this crown prince. The study suddenly quieted down, and Xie Heng, who had been sitting lazily on the side, unconsciously sat up straight. Xie Qingyu's eyes flickered and he didn't speak. King Mu glanced at his grandson and sneered, it has been 4 years since he adopted him, but Jifei has never been willing to write a book to establish a crown prince. Do you think he really likes you? Xie Heng was somewhat dissatisfied, Dad, what exactly does Xie Yan mean? He doesn't have a son himself, why not make Xuanyu the crown prince? He's not afraid of one day. No one died on the battlefield. King Mu leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes to rest, while Xie Heng and Xie Qingyu became somewhat anxious. Grandfather, Xie Qingyu couldn't help but shout. King Mu opened his eyes and said calmly, what's the rush? Anyway, you call him Father King now. As long as he doesn't have a wife or children for a day, you will be the only heir to the Chu prince's mansion. Xie Qingyu frowned and said, what does this have to do with the Luo family? King Mu glanced at Changsun with a hint of resentment. Have you really been flattered and foolish by those outside in recent years? If someone calls you the Grand Prince of the Regent's mansion, do you really consider yourself the master of the Regent's mansion? I asked you to marry Luo Yun's daughter as the legitimate wife, but you didn't want to. Do you think that being Luo Yun can make you look up to you? If you hadn't started with that girl from the Luo family, Luo Yun wouldn't have even glanced at you. With an old father-in-law like Luo Yun, what can't you do? Xia Yan is about to return to the capital, and I pressured him to adopt you back then. Do you think he dare not touch you? Xie Qingyo's face changed, and he felt a chill in his heart as he remembered his father, whom he had not seen for several years. Xie Qingyu didn't actually spend much time with Xia Yan, but since Xia Yan returned to the capital 5 years ago, every time I saw Xia Yan, I felt a tingling scalp and a cold spine. As the most favored eldest grandson of King Mu, although his father was born out of wedlock, he was also a truly noble young master. At that time, Xie Qingyu, who was only 15 years old, never knew anyone could be so cruel and terrifying. Xia Yan held the head of the rebellious king of Qing, King Lu, and the situation of forcing King Yong to death made Xie Qingyu have a nightmare for half a year. Of course, it's not just Xie Qingyu who is afraid. The rebellion 5 years ago, when Xia Yan came with the head of the rebellious king and stepped on blood, is a terrifying shadow that many people in the capital cannot erase for a lifetime. This also established Xia Yan's title of Cold-Face Shura. Grandfather, he doesn't know. Xie Qingyu hesitated, unable to say anything. Mu Wang said, he may not care if you are his own nephew, but he cannot ignore Luo Yun's son.in.law. At this point, King Mu's eyes suddenly became sharp and he said coldly, Xuanyu, do you really want that orphan girl surnamed Shen or do you want easily obtainable power? Xie Qingyo's face changed again and again, and finally he slowly lowered his head. Grandfather, I understand. King Mu nodded satisfactorily and said, very well, you haven't lost your head yet. You have disappointed your grandfather about the Luo family. Originally, I didn't say anything about that girl's obsession with you, but you know, there are some things that are too much for you. Now that Luo Yun has returned, if you still have the same attitude towards the Luo family girl as before, Luo Yun will never let you have the opportunity to approach that girl again. King Mu looked at Xie Qingyu meaningfully and said, with Luo Yun's power and position, his daughter would never marry an ordinary person. Think about it. If one of your cousins married that girl. Do you think no one wants to get close to that girl in these years? Xie Qingyu said solemnly, Grandfather, my grandson understands. With Luo Junyao's current reputation, those people should also give up. Mu Wang said, that's hard to say. The Xuanjia army in Luo Yun's hand is worth making them endure a notorious woman. Xuanyu, what you did today disappointed me too much. In the situation at that time, as long as Xie Qingyu pushed the boat with the flow and took responsibility, even if he offended the girl's family with his momentary affection for Luo Junyao and was beaten by the father and son of the Luo family, the reputation of the Luo family would be completely destroyed, and this marriage could be guaranteed. King Mu glanced at Xie Qingyu standing in front of him, not unaware of what Changsun was thinking. But sometimes pretending to be smart is too much, and there is also a saying that intelligence is often mistaken by intelligence. Where are there so many things in this world where a perfect person takes advantage of all the benefits? If you want to take control of the Luo family, you have to marry someone in first. My grandson knows his mistake. Just admit your mistake. As for the girl's surname Shen, if you really like to wait for the Luo family girl to pass by in the future, you can either bring her into the backyard or keep her outside, said King Mu. Xie Qingyu nodded and said, yes, grandfather. Actually, Xiang herself understands these things. She has always been a good girl who understands righteousness. King Mu snorted lightly and said, "If you don't understand something from her, do you think I can tolerate her?" Originally, it wouldn't be a big deal for you to polish the temperament of that girl from the Luo family, but unfortunately, the border war ended too quickly. Luo Yun and Xia Yan returned to the capital one after another, so be careful in your future actions. Yes, Xia Qingyu replied, "Grandfather, what happened to the Luo family today?" Mu Wang said, "Tomorrow, you should personally come to pay a gift to Luo Yun. Don't be empty about passing the buck, just say that you were so passionate that you almost offended Miss Luo'er. That girl was scared and hit you. It's not bad for you to take responsibility for this. Let's go back and ask your aunt and mother to investigate the Luo family situation. If it's appropriate, we can finalize your marriage." Xie Qingyu felt nauseous for a moment, but he also knew that his grandfather was doing it for his own good. He nodded and said, "Grandpa, rest assured, my grandson understands." Is today's chapter quite plump? End of this chapter.